Member of the Laguna Plein Air Painters Association, the Plein Air Painters of Chicago, and the National Watercolor Society. Take it away, Steve.
A little bit more about me. I have an hour. Do we have lunch? Do they want to eat?
No, we have time for lunch, so don't take your lunches yet.
Okay. Okay, a little bit more about me. My whole talk is not going to be an hour, but I do want to just give you a little more background on my, I guess, resume, I guess, and my wife is right here, 36 years. A little bit of history on that, though. No, we met at the American Academy of Art. Second year there. Yes. Okay. Second year at the Academy, I was in the life drawing class with Bobby, and immediately I fell in love with her. When I saw her, it was literally love at first sight. I was painfully shy at the time, so this was, never had a girlfriend, I didn't know what to do. I had two brothers back home, you know, and so I, you know, was just admiring her life drawing skills and ability, and it took me 6 months to work up the courage to actually speak to her. And the first thing I said to her was, "You draw good." So I hope my English is a little better, but I may slip into that. Anyway.
Just the back of
This one.
yeah. And then you may need to put the microphone closer
Okay,
to your mouth.
there we go.
Sorry.
Is this better? Can we hear it? Okay. Volume up? How about now? That's better. Okay. So it took, it took me a while to come around after years of Toastmasters and, you know, corporate life. I've kind of worked out the jitters of public speaking. I love teaching. I love presenting anything to do with art, and I love demoing and just a little bit of commercial here. I am also teaching up at the Peninsula School of the Art for watercolor. We've got a 4-day watercolor class in September 4 through 7. I'm also demoing and teaching in, scheduled to teach in Italy and Perugia for like over 10 days. But the workshop is a 5-day workshop in Perugia. That's in June through July of this year. And that's through the Hudson Valley Art Association. So I am teaching in Botanic Gardens, like Ann was saying. I also teach out at Morton Arboretum at various workshops. So it's all going to be on my website. Oh, and I teach here Wednesday nights. I have watercolor class. So with that said, a little bit about this presentation. It's not going to be about so much painting, demoing, like Joe was teaching hands-on. This is more what I like to call the spirit and the heart of artists. And I kind of gave you a little preview at the very beginning about being aware, being present, being mindful, and that's what this presentation is pretty much all about. As artists, we're out in the field. Our job is to communicate, connect with that scene, that landscape, and translate it. You know, translate what we're seeing into a movable piece of art. And really, how does that piece of art get, you know, moves us and hopefully moves a potential buyer, or even, you know, viewers in a gallery. With that said, I just want to mention a movie that I am passionately in love with. From a young lad, my favorite TV program of all times was Family Classics, hosted by Fraser Thomas. It was on Sunday afternoons. Those of you my age, I'm sure remember that. It was a family time. We sat down as a family and watched that show together. And my all-time favorite movie on Family Classics was Journey to the Center of the Earth. And anytime it's on TV, you know, watch it. I've since bought the video, so I can watch it at any time I want. But I recently saw it about a year ago, and this whole presentation kind of was formulating in my head about a year ago about this. And I'm watching this movie almost for the first time again, and after 20 years, I'm watching it anew, and I saw things in this movie that related to painting and as us as artists. And so I want to kind of put this presentation together after talking with Mary, and Mary invited me up to talk about it. So a little bit of synopsis on this movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it if you can, renting it from the library or wherever. But the synopsis of this movie is pretty simple. It's a group of people on a mission to go travel to what they thought was the center of the earth and come back safely with documentation. That was their goal. And us as artists, we have goals and dreams and you know, objectives that we go out and we try to paint some scenes and come back safely with documentation. So a lot of similarities. But within the movie itself, it starts out with Professor Lindenbrook here, played by James Mason, and Pat Boone. And at the beginning, the professor is awarded a knighthood, or you know, becomes a sir in Edinburgh, and Pat Boone gives him a gift of a lava rock, and they, being the professor that he is, he's a professor of geology and mineralogy, minerals and stuff like that. So he examines the rock and he discovers that there's something wrong with it, or something that's not right. So it's heavier than it should be. So in experimenting, they put the rock into an oven, and there's an explosion that happens, and the rock blows apart. But inside the rock is some sort of amulet or a plumb bob is what's in there. And they discover it was an artifact from 100 years ago. This guy journeyed through the earth and documented it, and he couldn't return safely, so he put through this amulet in the lava, and it eventually came out somewhere in Italy, and he ended up with it. So that's the discovery. So there's inscriptions on the little amulet and all that. So so they go, eventually they head out, and I'm just cutting this movie really short, but they go out to Iceland, where the amulet tells them to go to, and they're scouting out the location. And as we as artists, we often need to scout out locations, not with the intent of painting per se, but just to absorb and recall and transcribe the information. So their first trip there, they eventually get bushwhacked and clubbed, and they see that, they discover that there's some resistance against this trip. So they get actually knocked out and thrown into some sort of feather, downy feather thing. But when that door closes, there's another door that literally opens, and Hans, with Gertrude, opens up the door, and they they find their one of their travel companions. Well, eventually they end up back at the hotel where the professor that is another professor that is really up against them is trying to steal all their plans. They find that that professor actually is murdered by another resistance within the movie, another villain, and they end up seeing all this equipment. I have preparation is important, and this part of the movie is kind of key in that they discover all this equipment that this other professor was all lining up. Now that he's dead, it is now all available. So they discover this other professor is dead or was murdered, and that all this equipment is available. The wife of the old other professor is also now joining their team, and this is a good point to bring up regarding networking. So this group that we're in right now, the PAPC, is a phenomenal group. So network with people, find those people, and get to know them well. Use this group as an accountability partner. And you know, if you're struggling with resistance on getting up on Saturday morning and out the door, find an accountability partner, and hey, ask them to hold you accountable. Say, if you're not there, I'm going to miss you, and let's do this together, kind of thing. So. The other theme that kind of runs through this whole movie is light. And, the explosion at the beginning revealed the amulet. The amulet itself tells them to appear at this certain location on this certain time of day, and the sunlight will actually reveal the opening of where they're supposed to go to. So, light in this movie is a constant theme. Whenever and wherever it appears, it's going to reveal something exciting, something new. This scene also, it's a real short clip in the scene where he's documenting on a little drawing, and I was enamored as a child with this little drawing, and it was like a kind of a map, kind of of the crater that we're visiting, and the scene also pans down to, at the same time, to the resistance. These are the bad guys that are trying to stop them, and as artists, we always hit resistance. And if you haven't read Stephen Pressfield's book, The Art of War, The War of Art. Yeah, The War of Art. It's just a flip on the Art of War, but Pressfield is a really good writer, very creative writer, and it's a book I would highly recommend. Talks all about resistance and the resistance that we as artists feel. And how to overcome that resistance. Light is also depicted in this movie as a flame. So there's always either fire or some sort of explosion or lava or whatever. But they use this light to kind of throw down the hole, and this light just never goes out. It's just never ending. It's just an impossibly deep hole. But if you just turn around, there's the opening that they really need to go through. And as artists, we're out there, we see this huge, massive, huge scene that it's just almost impossible to paint. But if we just turn around, there's the story that we really should be painting. And that's the takeaway on this scene. And Gertrude actually showed them, Gertrude the duck actually showed them the way. There's going to be nocturnal paintings that we're going to be painting. We need to bring our own light. And those that have done nocturnals, you know that you need a light source on your palette as well as a light source on your painting. And light is important. So bring that with you. While they were in the caves exploring, their light actually goes out. Their room corp lamps that they were bringing, the automatic lamps, actually went out, and what they discovered was bioluminescence, which is this natural light that the algae gives off, and it just provided them with enough light to see for the rest of their journey. I've seen bioluminescence on the seashore at night when the waves come over and crash. The sand actually illuminates, and it's a beautiful thing if you can see it. It's amazing. It was like, this is a miracle from what I'm seeing. At the end of the movie, they go through all these struggles and additional adventures. But at the end of the movie, they end up in the lost city of Atlantis. They see this altar stone made of asbestos, which I think when they made this movie, they weren't thinking asbestos is bad. But anyway, they see more resistance. It's a big boulder that's blocking their way. It's resistance after resistance after resistance. And so they find a way to blow this boulder up, setting some charges, and they do end up blowing the boulder up, but in the process, they set off an earthquake, and the earthquake sets off a volcanic eruption. So they end up sitting in this altar stone, and believe it or not, I'll give the ending away, but and I did record the last minute of it, just so you guys can. Why is that playing? So they're in this the altar stone, and see if I can turn up the volume here. Oh, it's not playing. Anyway, they do end up shooting up out of the volcano. The book says they end up on a sunny hillside in Italy. The movie has them splashing down in water and all that. But anyway, the insights I do want to kind of bring back are, and I did have a handout. Did you bring that with, Mary? Or not? Okay, never mind. I do have a handout that I can get out to everybody.
I'm so sorry, I'll get it out for you.
That's okay. Number one, have clear goals. When you're setting out, focus on the results that you want to achieve in your painting. The journey team set clear goals They were on a journey to the center of the earth and to return safely with documentation. Your goals are logical and they won't force you to create the luck. So be remarkable, meaning being remarkable means that your goals and challenge you to be somebody more than you currently are. And Jim Rohn's is a really good leader. It's all about leadership and business. Writes a really good quote on, don't wish it was easier, wish that you were better. So as an artist, don't wish that scene was simpler to paint. Wish you have more skills on painting that scene. Number 2, surround yourself with the people that remind you of the future, not your past. Network well. Our journey team handpicked their participants and they all added value, even Gertrude. Be accountable and be prepared is number 3. Preparation is so important. As an artist, take care of your tools, take care of your resources, and use them as instruments for exploration and discovery. When we're going out to paint, I love those few moments before just getting the tools organized and supplies all ready. It's just a really fun time for me. I love that part of it. Number 4, there's going to be resistance. Just count on it. Okay? So I want you guys to focus on knowing that there's resistance. I want you to set yourself up systems and processes, procedures that counter those resistance. Number 5, have an abundance mentality. There's, Joe was mentioning competitions and all that. There is a, and if you go to these plein air events thinking, you're up against, the stack of these artists, and there's nothing left for me kind of mentality, like a scarcity mentality, you're doing it all wrong. Go in there with, there is so much to be learned and gained and accomplished. And if you keep doing that, it's going to come your way. So never be jealous or envious of anyone's accomplishments. Always relish in the fact that Lennon won the gold medal award this year, because next year it could be you. That was number 5. Number 6, perseverance. Our journey team persevered. No matter the resistance, no matter what happened to them, they kept going. I want you guys to fight not so much against the fear of painting or that resistance, but fight for beauty, fight for illumination, fight for connection, because your art is that important. It's something that only you can do, that you can give the world. And if you go into that mentality, you've got a voice to say. It's and only you can do that. So persevere. Number 7. There's only 12 of these. Number 7. Never let off the pressure. And what gets measured gets done. So pressure. There's always going to be pressure. when there is no pressure and everything seems like it's going easy, something's not right. If that's the case, I want you to give yourself pressure. Because when you have that little bit of pressure, a little bit of time constraint, a little bit of, deadline that you gotta meet, you're not gonna be so relaxed that you're just gonna end up lazy painting. Joe was under the gun today. He had the pressure of all of us watching him. He had a time constraint. He had a message to give, and it turned out beautiful. It was just a magnificent painting. But when you go out painting and you see it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day, you have nothing else to do, you're going painting, give yourself a little pressure. Say, okay, I'm gonna do 2 paintings instead of just the 1. I'm gonna do a painting an hour. Give yourself a time constraint or measured strokes. In my class, we have paintings that we create in 1 minute. Little 1-minute palm trees that we paint, and in a 5-minute increment. At the end of those 5 minutes, the class has painted 5 beautiful palm trees, and each one of those took a minute, and I tell the class to get up and look at each other's paintings, and they're just gorgeous. But within that 1 minute, if you give them, an hour to paint that tree, it's not going to look any more beautiful than that tree took in 1 minute to paint. Choose simplicity over complication. And what better example from Joe's painting was just remember how simple he constructed that composition. He just laid in that middle value, just boom. It took him maybe a minute to lay that in, and it just radiated. Look at that painting for how simple it is. Not so much the detail that he added, and I think he said if he had more time he would put a little more detail in. But I think at this point, for what it is, it's a beautiful painting. It captures that light and message, exactly. And I don't think he could have done that any different on location. And that's the experience level. Number 9, the Journey team rested often. And I want to, reiterate, make sure you give yourself time to rest, recover, and rejuvenate. After today, you're going to be exhausted because this is a learning experience and your head is just going to be really tired. Give Sunday, a day of rest and say, I'm not going to be doing anything other than maybe, looking at your notes or whatever. But set up times for rest and recovery because those are important, so that when you do go out, you are on 100% ready to go. Number 10. Joe mentioned gratitude. Go out with a grateful heart. Start your painting with gratitude. Look for, it's so easy to go into that negative zone and just, everything is against you, I don't have the best space, this person is in front of me, how can I see, all that. If you flip your switch in your head and look at the positive, soon that gratitude will build into more gratitude, and you're painting joyful paintings. You're painting out of the joy of your heart and soul. So look for those grateful moments. 11 is never stop discovering. Always ask these questions. Our journey team on the movie, they were in constant discovery mode. Every path they took, they found new things, new elements and things like that. You're going out every Saturday and you'll find a new scene to paint. Always be in that awestruck discovery mode. Ask really good questions, and yeah, your paintings will just radiate light. I know it. And finally, 12 is find the links and follow the light. It's all about connections. Joe had a really good painting, and I'm glad we did the street scene. But the one question I did ask him was about the detail, about the center of interest, and he just nailed it as far as the light having the main stage. His center of interest was his hero in that painting. And you go out looking for your heroes. Look for the center of interests, the story that you want to create on your canvas. Go out as an art director mentality and find the hero in your story and make that hero have the highest light, the sharpest contrast, the sharpest edge, and allow the supporting cast. And on Joe's painting, that whole left side was a supporting cast member. If there was a character that was out speaking their lines, outshining the hero, he would have toned that down. And he did put that little white line in the gray area, and it just didn't work. It was outshining the hero. So treat your paintings as a movie, as your center of interest is your hero, and treat it that way. With that said, I do want to finish. I am currently reading, believe it or not, The Artist's Journey by Stephen Pressfield. It's another book by Pressfield. And he ends his book with a few simple statements. He writes in The Artist's Journey, all art, painting, dance, drama, architecture, literature, music, etc., is the recognition of beauty and the articulation of empathy and compassion for the other. Simply put, it's giving witness to the courage on display so that the soul can be touched. So as you as artists are giving testimony to the witness that's being on display, the courage that's being on display, the love and the beauty on display. So you guys are more than just capturing scenes. Your mission is far greater than that. The artist, Pressfield goes on to say, the artist is a force for unity. Her role is to bring together upon the common ground of the imagination the desperate and often warring factions of the moral psyche in the human race. With your art, the gulf of the separation has been bridged, at least for the moment, by one tiny increment. What has replaced the separation is the power of empathy, compassion for identification of the other. The artist does that. So as you go out in your scenes in these future Saturdays, Sundays, and Fridays, capture that empathy, capture that emotion in your scenes, tell a compelling story, and just don't block the view of others. So when you're going out. With that said, are there any questions? I know I'm way ahead of time.
It's
But
okay, we have some time there.
I was wondering
Yes.
if you could expand a little bit on resistance, and also the other thing, seeing the possibility in a scene, because that sometimes eludes me. I see you and other artists just showing something amazing about something that I find very ordinary. at
Okay.
times.
We receive
great,
questions.
great questions, Christine.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah,
Repeat.
Christine wanted to know a little bit more about resistance and
How to overcome it.
how to overcome it, and and finding the, I guess, the personality in the painting, more or less, or putting it, right? Is that,
Well, something that really grabs you, even though you're looking at something. Sometimes I look
Right.
at something and I think, this is so pedestrian.
right?
And then you make a painting and this is not this.
Okay. Great questions, though. Look, on resistance, I mentioned it briefly about fighting for beauty, fighting for the goodness, because you're going to be hit with resistance. You're going to wake up Saturday and go, I'm too tired. Physically, I'm tired. Our oil painting instructor, Eugene Hall, had a great saying. He said, you gotta literally drag your cold stone corpse to that easel. And once you're at that easel, new life becomes, it just becomes you. It just, so whatever you can do to get to your easel, set up systems, prepare your equipment, so that you have little excuse not to go. The night before, if you're a night person, and a lot of us are, fortunately, I married a night person, a night owl. I'm the morning.
Night person.
A nice night person. I'm the morning person, so I get up, 4 o'clock in the morning and get the equipment ready to go. And then we're on the road, bright and early. I'm an early riser, early arriver. I married the exact opposite, so we make a good couple.
Long day.
Whereas, she's prepping the night before and I'm getting my sleep, but anyway. But set up those systems for you and give yourself every opportunity, every chance for success. Knowing that resistance is there, you're gonna fight against that. But fight for the good. Fight for that beauty to rescue, that adventure to live, or that battle to fight. It gives me energy when I okay, I'm not fighting against the fear anymore, but I'm fighting for something else, something for good. Your other question is how to find that story in that pedestrian scene. One technique that I use is personification. Animators use this all the time. They use Disney is known for this in that they actually use anthropomorphism to ascribe human qualities to inanimate objects, and then they make their objects talk and all that. That's anthropomorphism. We, as artists, we can't animate our paintings, so it's called personification. So I would, if I'm seeing like a typical scene, a landscape maybe of a tree and a nice savanna landscape out there. I'll ascribe maybe that tree with some human characteristics, and you want, depending on what mood you're in, it could be you're struggling with something personal, you ascribe that tree that personality that you're feeling, or that emotion that you're feeling at that time. And if it's anger, well, you know, throw that paint on there and get that tree feeling really angry. Or if it's catching the light a certain way, put that emotion into that tree. You're actually personifying that tree to carry the human emotion that you want to correlate. In this way, for me, it's making that painting so much deeper meaning than just copying a scene pixel for pixel. You know? So it's giving those scenes and allow the light to tell the story. You know, if there's a scene in that where it's just cutting across, allow that light kind of dance in that story, you know, have a center of interest in that hero in that story. But, and how Joe beautifully illustrated the shadows. He unified the sameness of those shadows. He kept those shadows as a unifying factor, okay? He had little details, little cool, little highlights and things in there, but overall he kept that as a unified sameness in his design. And he had a beautiful U-shaped composition. So look for your shadows to have a unifying presence overall. And don't feel like you have to put all that detail in. Allow the viewer to finish the painting themselves. Just pointing out the bearded gentleman over here. His coat is so simply done, but you, the viewer, are finishing it. It could be a fur coat, it could be, you know, velvet coat, whatever. Clayton Beck's piece over here with the girl. Look at his shadows and how he unifies the sameness of those shadows. He puts the details in the light. Errol's painting also. That's,
Errol's is over there.
is that yours, Nancy?
Yeah.
Nancy's painting. And Errol's. Both of them are experts at unifying the sameness of the areas that they want to quiet down and almost use as a foil for your center of interest. So on Nancy's over here, I love this piece right in here. This, and that edge, that sharpness of that edge, the contrast between the light and the dark is exquisite. And it's being surrounded by all this gray, but that points out, you know, that immediately caught my eye. And what Joe was saying about going around in galleries, be mindful of what your eye is seeing. It's that mindfulness that will get you attracted to a certain piece. So when I came here Wednesday and I saw this piece, I go, whoa, it's a steel beam. I saw it, I go, that's beautiful. That edge was treated so nicely. I was aware of that, and I looked at it further and deeper, and now I'm building in myself a body of knowledge for when I'm at that scene. Now I have a solution for it. So look at all these arts. Go to the Art Institute. Look at solutions for your own art. You know, constantly build that body of knowledge. Go in there with curiosity of a 3-year-old. Just absorb. Okay. Great questions, Christine. Yes.
I had a question about resistance. One resistance that I have is creating stuff and just having clutter that isn't going to sell. And also, when you're out there thinking, is this going to sell? Is somebody going to like this? So I just want to throw that out. And I have so much stuff already. And that's one of my most joyous moments was going to sketch at a coffee shop. This person saw me sketching and I gave them the sketch and it was so joyful. Because I did this wonderful thing. Yes, I took an iPhone photo of it because I couldn't let it go. But it was just like, God, if I could just not make any money on my art and I could just give it away, that would be awesome. So how do you get past that mental resistance of, you know, those two things? Like, is this going to sell? And I don't want to make more art because it's just going to fill my apartment up.
It's I think we're all right there. It has a lot to do with your ultimate goal of why paint in the first place. And if you can nail that for yourself, try not to do it for anybody else, but it's just for yourself. Nail that why. The how and the what you're painting is just going to be a given. But if they say if your why is bigger than your what and how, you got it right. If your what and how is bigger than your why, your focus is wrong. So I think your why is much bigger. And it's that why for everybody is going to be different. You know, it's going to be different for everybody. So
Maybe also enjoy the journey, right?
enjoy the journey, because we all are on a different journey. It's your journey is not my journey, and vice versa. So good.